Title suggestion asterisk, The Ancient Truth About Power. Why the strong do what they can, Thucydides was right. Hook asterisk, a shattered city, a lone island. And a sentence that still haunts every boardroom, war room, and diplomatic briefing asterisk, the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. That is not a meme from a modern pundit. It is the exact conclusion of an Athenian envoy speaking to the tiny island of Melos in 416 BC. The words have been quoted, repurposed, and twisted for centuries. Yet the brutal logic behind them has never been clearer than today. Imagine a tech giant demanding that a startup either sell its data or be crushed, or a superpower forcing a neutral nation to choose a side or face annihilation. The ancient dialogue you are about to hear is the blueprint for those decisions, and it tells us why the most powerful actors never hesitate to enforce their will. If you think power is a moral game, you're about to have that belief challenged by the very historian who documented the war that killed Athens itself. Context bridge: the year is 416 BC. The Peloponnesian War has been raging for 12 years. Athens, the maritime empire that once prided itself on democracy and trade, now fields a fleet larger than any city-state could dream of. Across the Aegean, the island of Melos sits like a quiet ember. Its citizens are Dorians, culturally aligned with Sparta, yet politically neutral. Athens has just forced the city-state of Mytilene to surrender. Its message to any wavering neighbor is simple: submit or be destroyed. A squadron of Athenian triremes drops anchor off the Melian shore. Two envoys, Laches and Nicias, step onto the sand and deliver a decree that feels like a legal summons from the 21st century United Nations. If that UN were an armed hegemon with the power to rewrite an island's future. The Melians, a community of about 5,000 people, gather in the agora. Their leaders argue for neutrality, for the law of nature that ought to protect the innocent. The Athenians respond not with philosophy, but with cold calculation. It is a simple matter. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. To understand why that line still matters, picture the 2003 global stage. The United States and China locked in a tech and trade war. The Russian invasion of Ukraine reshaping security doctrines, and multinational corporations pressing tiny suppliers to accept their terms or be cut off. The dynamics are identical. Only the language has changed. The ancient power play mirrors today's great power competition. When a state or corporation can project force, it does not wait for moral approval. And when it cannot, it seeks alliances, builds asymmetries, or simply retreats. The Melian dialogue is not a footnote. It is a mirror held up to the present. The same logic that drove the Athenians to siege a neutral island drives a tech platform to take down a competitor's app. The same calculus of might makes right informs the decisions of CEOs, generals, and diplomats alike. So, as we step back into that Athenian ship, keep your mind on the boardrooms of Silicon Valley, the war rooms of NATO, and the negotiation tables of the World Bank. The lesson you will hear is as relevant as the next forecast on your screen. Asterisk, what if the strongest actor today decided that the law of nature was a myth? Would the world feel safer, or would it descend into chaos? Asterisk. Core teaching, Teaching 1. Power is a tool, not a moral guide. We think that a city is happy when she is left in peace. Laches, Thucydides, 5.8. For the Athenians immediately dismissed the Melians' hope for peaceful coexistence. For them, happiness is a function of domination, not of justice. In plain terms, when you have the ability to impose your will, you measure success by the scope of that imposition, not by any ethical standard. Modern parallel. In 2021, a leading cloud provider sent an ultimatum to a small software firm: migrate to its ecosystem or lose the ability to serve your customers. The provider's happiness was measured by the expansion of its platform, not by the survival of the smaller firm. Actionable principle asterisk measure strategic outcomes by the degree of control you achieve, not by abstract notions of fairness. Do you ever let fairness dictate a deal when the numbers say otherwise? Core teaching, Teaching 2. The realist calculation of risk. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. Thucydides, 5.89. Here the Athenians lay down the law of force. They do not ask for consent. They assert that the natural order is determined by capability. This is not cynicism. It is a strategic assessment of risk and reward. Consider the 2020 confrontation between a major aerospace manufacturer and a nation-state seeking to acquire its satellite technology. The manufacturer, aware of its unique position, offered a licensing deal that granted the state limited use, while threatening to withhold further support if the state pursued an indigenous program. The state, possessing the means to develop its own rockets, still chose the deal because the short-term cost of conflict outweighed the long-term gain of independence. Actionable principle * when assessing any negotiation. Quantify the cost of resistance versus the benefit of compliance. Let the balance of power dictate the leverage you exert. Core teaching. Teaching 3. The illusion of neutrality. Our empire is not a cage, but a shield, and we do not aim at taking your lands, only at your submission. Nicias, Thucydides, 5.88. Athens tries to paint imperial ambition as protective, attempting to co-opt the Melians' desire for safety. The message is, you can stay neutral only if you recognize us as your protector. In reality, neutrality is a mask that can be stripped the moment a stronger power decides you're expendable. Fast forward to 2022. A small European nation declares itself non-aligned amid the U.S.-China rivalry, hoping to remain a trade hub without picking sides. Within months, both superpowers start demanding port access, military basing rights, and data-sharing agreements. The veneer of neutrality evaporates under the weight of strategic necessity. Actionable principle * never rely on neutrality as a shield when a dominant actor's interests intersect with yours. Instead, build redundancy and diversified partnerships. How many of your business contracts assume neutrality as a safe default? Core teaching. Teaching 4. Morality versus survival. If you think that the gods will protect you because you are just, you are mistaken. The world is governed by the stronger. Thucydides, 5.91. The Melians cling to an ideal of divine justice, believing that righteousness will shield them. The Athenians bluntly dismiss that belief, substituting divine order with empirical reality. Power determines outcomes. In the corporate sphere, consider the 2018 case where a well-known fast food chain refused to sell a plant-based product to a small vegan startup, citing brand integrity. The public outcry over the moral stance forced the chain to reverse its decision, revealing that the perceived moral high ground can be a liability when consumers' preferences shift suddenly. Actionable principle * align your ethical stance with market realities. Moral arguments alone do not protect against a more powerful adversary. Core teaching. Teaching 5. Strategic overreach and its price. We think it is best for a city to be under our protection, for we are stronger, and you will benefit. Laches, Thucydides, 5.85. Athens claims they act for Melos' benefit, yet history shows the opposite. By imposing their will, they sow resentment and eventually create a martyr narrative that fuels resistance. A modern echo. The 2003 invasion of Iraq was justified by the United States as a move to protect the Iraqi people and bring stability. The overstretched military campaign led to a protracted insurgency, massive cost, and a long-term strategic quagmire. Actionable principle * before extending influence. Calculate the hidden costs, political backlash, resource drain, and long-term instability, and weigh them against the immediate gains. Are you willing to pay hidden costs now for a quick win later? Modern application. 3 actionable steps this week. Step 1. Conduct a power mapping audit. Take 30 minutes today to draw a simple diagram of your current project or negotiation. Place yourself at the center, then list every party that can influence the outcome: competitors, regulators, customers, suppliers. Assign each a relative strength rating from 1, weak, to 10, dominant. Identify any entities rated 8 or above that you have not yet engaged. Why it matters. The Melian dialogue shows that ignoring strong actors invites coercion. By mapping power now, you preempt surprise ultimatums. Step 2. Build a contingency neutrality plan. Pick one active contract where you have assumed the other party will stay neutral. For example, a joint venture with a vendor who is not aligned with any geopolitical bloc. Draft a 2-page addendum that outlines alternative supply routes, backup vendors, or legal safeguards if that neutrality erodes. Why it matters. As the Athenians demonstrated, neutrality can be stripped in an instant. A concrete fallback plan turns a theoretical risk into a real, manageable option. Step 3. Align ethical messaging with power realities. Review a recent public statement or marketing claim that emphasizes fairness or justice. Pair that statement with a data point, sales numbers, market share, or cost-benefit analysis that shows how the claim aligns with your strategic position. If there is a mismatch, adjust the messaging to reflect what the market actually rewards. Why it matters. The Melians believed divine justice would protect them. The reality was power. Your brand must reflect the terrain it operates in, or risk being outmaneuvered by a competitor who simply does the math. Implement these 3 actions before the end of the week, and you will have turned a 2,500-year-old dialogue into a living strategic toolkit. How many of your past decisions were made without a clear view of who could actually force you to act? The Athenians walked away from the rocks of Melos with their ships full, their doctrine clear. The strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. They thought they had won a tactical victory, yet the moral cost rippled through the Peloponnesian War, contributing to Athens' own downfall. The same law of the strongest governs the modern world, whether in the orbit of satellites, the boardrooms of tech giants, or the corridors of global diplomacy. If you ignore the logic of power, you invite the very suffering you seek to avoid. So remember, the next time a giant corporation tells you to accept the terms or be left behind, or a superpower demands alignment on a security pact, they are speaking the same ancient sentence that echoed across the Aegean 2,600 years ago. Do not wait for history to repeat itself in a louder, more digitized voice. Apply the Melian lessons now, and you will navigate the currents of power with a steadier hand. If you found this deep dive into the ancient anatomy of power useful, the next episode will dissect the Spartan sword of honor at the Battle of Sphacteria, a moment where the weak tried to rewrite the same law of the strong. Missing it means missing the chance to see how defiance can temporarily bend, but never break, the ancient order. Stay sharp, stay strategic,